Oof, this is a tough question. Tough question. So the best thing we can do when we see that the choices are very similar like this is we should just narrow our focus. Um, there are two questions really in one here, and we don't want to do them both at the same time. We want to take them one at a time. And the easier question to answer first is about the verbs. Mostly because who versus whom is kind of a weird rule. We don't really know it that well. It doesn't come up that much on the SAT. So for a lot of reasons, I would do the verb first and then the who, whom second. And hopefully that helps. Now, when I say the verb, what do I mean? Well, we have two versions of the verb use, right? We have the singular uses and then the plural use, which is also in choice A, right? So we have a choice. Do we need a singular or do we need a plural? The SAT tests verb agreement very often, and it is a hard and fast rule that we need to memorize and that, is reliable. So we can use that first to at least get a 50-50 shot at this. So let's see. The article goes on to suggest that the most valuable resources provided by co-working spaces are actually the people whom use them. Well, what are we talking about here? Like, what is doing the using? Well, the people are. The people use the spaces, right? So the people, that's plural, there's multiple people. And so we would want a plural verb to match that plural subject. And so that gets rid of choices B and C. That is provable. And so that's the kind of thing that you want to be able to do, because there will be easier versions of this question that don't involve who and whom, and that method that we just used would be able to kind of guarantee you those answers. So you need to know that process. The next piece, there's an easy answer and a hard answer. The easy answer for who versus whom is that when you have to choose, the safer bet is who. Mostly because who is more common, and there are way more circumstances where we would use the word who. So we should, if we have no reason to pick anything else, then yeah, who is the safer bet? Whom is not just a fancier version, and that's what most people think. And so that's not a reason to pick it at all. The real difference, the harder explanation, has to do with different types of pronouns. The simplest way I can do this is, let me give you two versions here. I use the spaces, or actually let's switch it. I'm going to keep the uses as best I can. He uses, I'm messing it up with the verbs. That's fine. He uses the spaces versus him uses the spaces. Okay. Hopefully the top sentence sounds correct. He uses the spaces. Now, he and him are very similar though, right? They're both pronouns that we would use to refer to a singular man. So why is one right and the other not? Well, the real difference has to come down to two different types of pronouns: subject pronouns and object pronouns. And so we have different uses of each of these. So depending on where the pronoun is in the sentence, we either would use the subject pronoun or the object pronoun. The reason he is correct in this case, the reason he is correct and him is not, is that the word that we're using, the pronoun, is actually the subject of the verb uses, right? It's doing the action. He is using the spaces. And so because it's a subject grammatically, we would use the pronoun that corresponds with that, the subject pronoun. So what does it have to do with who and whom? Well, the difference between those two words is basically the same. Who is a subject pronoun and whom is an object pronoun. So because we're still using the pronoun as a subject, we would use the subject pronoun who and not the object pronoun whom. The trouble with this is it's hard for our brains to hear when who is right and when whom is right, because they're very similar, and they don't come up very often. Whereas something like he and him, that we can hear very easily because we use those words all the time. And so this isn't super easy to do, but if you can try to do what I did here and reimagine the sentence in a way that you can kind of hear the difference between the two types of pronouns, you are more likely to then be able to prove who versus whom. Again, for most of us though, the better way to think about it is that who is usually right and whom is usually wrong. And so if you have to just pick something and move on, your best bet by far is who over whom. And there you go. But you still need to know the verb stuff, regardless. A lot going on in this question, but all good stuff, because the verb thing you will know, well, you will need to know for other questions on the test for sure.